working? Hello? Yeah, it's working. Cool. Tech works. Hi. How's everyone doing? Yeah? I had call for drinks. Okay. Yeah, I hear you. Hopefully, I'll make this quick and worthwhile. So what I've realized over my career is we talk a lot about growing ICs, keeping them happy, keeping them motivated, creating development plans for them. However, there's not much talk about growing engineering managers, whether they're current or future. So these challenges that you see on your screen, or on the screens over there, are they familiar? Do you have challenges with engineering managers in your org? Whether that's misaligned expectations from yourself or the business, communication breakdown. So whether the managers in your team are not able to navigate the org or communicate effectively with cross-functional peers. Is there people mismanagement? Is there managers who are technically very strong but not business astute, or the other way around? Do you have managers who are biased towards technologies or people? And if you're looking to fill the EM positions in your org, are you pontifying whether to hire or promote? And finally, do you have managers who were very strong ICs, they got promoted, but they are not doing well as managers? So my aim is to provide an easy mental model to set expectations, appraise, support, and hold the EMs accountable, so there is more objectivity and less subjectivity in the process. This is Growing Engineering Managers. My name is Chiranjiv Singh, short for Chiran. I'm an engineering director at checkout.com. I help build a global payments platform so that the world can check out. So as you know, our industry is well known for having clear, defined titles, and they're consistent. Yeah, good. I was about to say that's a cue for laughter, so that's good. It works. So let me align on the definition I have for an engineering manager. So that's an engineering manager who has pure ICs reporting into them, or whether that's manager of managers, so engineering directors and beyond. VPs, CTOs, you get the gist. So anyone with technical, people, and delivery responsibilities in an engineering org is an engineering manager, especially the materials I'm going to cover. Whenever I say engineering manager, it's actually applicable for anyone, no matter the seniority. However, the materials I'll be covering today is going to be slightly biased towards inexperienced EMs. So why invest in growing EMs at all? Well, if you want to have a healthy, progressive organization, you need to be able to provide mobility. People need to be able to see their future in the org, and they need to have that development plan from a management perspective even. And this should hopefully lead to a better retention as well in the company. The market we are in right now, it's a bit challenging. People are constrained to hire, so promotion and looking and growing people within the org is even more important. And also, being resourceful is a great tool to have, especially as a reader. Obviously, a bonus thing would be you'll be improving and sharpening your coaching and mentoring skills. So the way I define EMs, you can't set expectations with EMs unless we ourselves know what the competencies we're looking for in an EM. So we'll be setting some competencies, and the way I group them is into different pillars, and I'll go through them in just a second. Before we go into the competencies, it'll be good for you to, in your mind, think of the core competencies you look for in your managers and see how they map into the material and the framework I'm going to present today. So I group EMs into 4 different competency pillars. That's people, delivery, technical, and communication. Delivery also includes process. Communication also includes stakeholder management. But these are the core pillars I look at, and I group the various competencies within when defining an EM role. All of the materials that I mentioned are applicable for everyone, no matter the seniority in the EM track. I'm going to be biased towards junior EMs, inexperienced EMs, or ICs becoming EMs. I'm going to talk about each of the pillars in a bit more detail, but before I do that, I want to deviate slightly. It's nerd time. So I don't know about you, but when I think of organization problems, I think about how can I draw parallels and learnings from the past. And when I think about engineering manager, I think about a metaphorical operating system architecture. Don't ask me why. So this is an overly simplified metaphorical operating system architecture. Now, please don't send me hate mail. It's supposed to be simplified. It's supposed to be fun. So let me walk you through this. So you've got an application which is in the user space. You want to save a file. The application requests saving the file. It leverages reusable system files and utilities. The reusable system files and utilities provide this level of abstraction to read and write the file. It then transfers over the control to the kernel from the user space. The kernel then handles the permissions, data buffering, schedules it, and then deals with writing with the hardware. Not too bad, right? It's not too bad. Okay, let's move on. So I'm going to go through the pillars, and at the end of it, I'll show you how there are parallels from a competency perspective with the operating system architecture I just went through. Let's start with people management. People management includes various aspects, so obviously hiring, performance, both over performance, keeping the team motivated, the synergy, growing people, managing conflicts. Now, what I've realized is ICs find this topic the most detached when they move into the management track. When I became a manager, which was almost 15 years ago, I struggled a lot with this topic, so much so that obviously I made so many mistakes in this area, and one of the worst one was that I soured relationships with some of the members in my team. And I'm not alone. I see many managers who do mistakes or who make mistakes which can be corrected ahead of time, but they don't get the right support or guidance in correcting them. Fundamentally, people make team, and team delivers value. So if you don't have a team that has the cohesion or synergy, then it's highly unlikely they'll be delivering value efficiently. Technical management. Technical management should be the closest an IC, from a relatability perspective, should be closest to an IC. However, it's not a given. I have worked with managers who, even though have been engineers in their career, they've not had technical aspects as their strength. So that just means, and you need to be aware, there's more training, more coaching, more guidance, basically time required from your side so that they can grow. But your org may be different. You may have different requirements. You may already have this gap filled in with other people. That is okay as long as expectations are set and, as I mentioned, the gaps are filled in somewhere else. I don't know about you, but I've never worked in an organization where delivery has not been important. It's probably been the most important, actually, in all the companies I've been at. But what I find regularly is managers undermining the delivery aspects of management. And sometimes they even consider some of these areas not their job. As an example, project management. Now, Dan obviously covered this area in a bit more detail earlier this afternoon, so I'm not going to dive or duplicate the material here. However, it's very important for an EM to know one of the responsibilities they have is to project manage, which effectively means you've got ambiguous pieces of work which need to be delivered to the business, and everything in between, from breaking the work down to managing the timelines, to managing the dependencies, to dealing with the stakeholders is extremely important. And obviously, they still have to keep on refining the SDLC so that their team is efficient and their motivation is high. Communication management is another thing which is extremely important, probably the most important, which will be foundation for an EM to be successful in their career. We're first dealing with humans, not computers. So engagement with people is super important, providing the clarity, dealing with people with various functional backgrounds, and managing expectations is hugely important. So if a person is not able to do that, then it's quite likely they will struggle being an EM for a long period of time. What time is it? It's no time again. So let's go back. We went through the metaphorical operating system architecture. So now that we've gone through all the competency pillars, let's draw down what the quasi-EM architecture looks like. So a team requires people management. The manager uses their reusable technical knowledge and skills to help the team solve problems. And then communication brings it all together to deliver business value. I promise this was the only piece of computer science in this whole thing. So I'm going to move on now to some more important topics. So if you're pontifying whether to hire or promote, there's a few things to note or take in before you make that decision. You can look at the skills or the knowledge that you need for the position to be filled. Maybe you're in industry or knowledge that you require, which is pretty niche. You can look at the talent density within your organization. Of course, higher talent density organizations will give you more potential candidates for promotion. You can look at the company growth plans, the next 1 year, 2 years, and also look at the constraints you're at. So maybe there is a headcount lock, or maybe there are time constraints. So you can take all those inputs before making a decision. Say you do decide to promote someone. How do you identify someone within the organization? So you can look at various aspects. Behavioral, someone is self-starter, who's showcasing ownership, providing leadership already within the team, has got strong communication skills. From my perspective, whenever I look at promoting someone within an organization, I first make sure that they have consistent, proven track record of executing in their existing role. Only then I would consider them as a candidate or potential candidate for a promotion. If that candidate also has motivations to be a manager, then I generally find them filling in the gap, which means that they'll take on more responsibilities proactively, engaging with cross-functional peers, having opinions on matters which generally managers have, so on and so forth. So again, those are signals you can take in and make a decision. How do you then measure the performance of an EM? We can create a rubric based on the competencies and dimensions. So in here, you'll see the competencies at the top. Of course, you can tailor it to your liking, depending on your org. And you can also give weightage to each one of them. And to the left, you'll see dimensions. And you can map this on top of maybe the competency matrix you have for your managers in your organization. EMs obviously want to get promoted, just like anyone else. So it's very good to have a quantifiable way for you to be able to communicate where they're at in the journey. I once had an engineering manager who got recently promoted. They thought they're ready for another promotion straight away. So this rubric gives an opportunity to communicate the reality of where they're at and the journey they have to take before they get to the next stage. Learning compounds. So small increments over a period of time, hugely important. It's like the J-curve theory. We should talk about one more thing here, opinions. Have you had an EM come to you, say, hey, we should prioritize project X over project Y, but not able to articulate why? Or come to you, say, hey, we need more headcount, but not able to articulate what value the headcount would provide. Now, those are judgment calls and opinions. And as they get more mature, their opinions and judgments should mature as well. And hopefully your guidance and coaching will help them through this journey. As the EM matures and grows, the opinions and behaviors grows. At that point in time, you may want to add one more dimension to their overall performance and calibration. And that is influence. So Andrew S. Grove, in his book, High Output Management, considers managers' output to be the output of their organization plus that of their neighboring orgs under their influence. So as an EM grows, it's hugely important that they navigate the direct and indirect orgs through influence, and not through authority. Let's look at a couple of gotchas to watch out for when dealing with the newly promoted EMs. Does anyone recognize this chart? Yeah? It's the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? So when someone has the least amount of knowledge, they think they have the most amount of knowledge, and it's a bit of a tricky territory as far as an EM is concerned. So as I mentioned, I had someone who had a couple who had gone through this journey. So it was very important for me to be able to communicate soon and often the reality of where they're at, so that the expectations were aligned. Because misaligned expectations is no good. And one more thing to note is perception and expectation is actually equal to reality. So bringing them closer to your reality quicker and often is very important. The next gotcha is the opposite, which is imposter syndrome. So people who have the capabilities, but they doubt their own capabilities. So what I do in this scenario is make sure that they have the right coaching, support in place, but also to give them testing opportunities so that they start building the confidence. So how do you provide the right support? You can provide the right support in various ways, but I'll call out a couple here. Curate a phased approach in adding responsibilities rather than a big bang. I can't stress this enough. Feedback, very important. Make sure you're providing regular feedback and seeking regular feedback, and make sure the feedback is 360 so that you're getting your data points validated and the whole process is fair. You can also guide the EMs in you deciding which leadership style you want to adopt with them and them adopting with their teams. And finally, don't overprotect them. Let them make relatively small mistakes, because that's the only way to learn and grow. So how do you circuit break when things are not working well? Look for consistent evidence of underperformance. Look for misaligned motivation. And look at if there's data points suggesting the future is looking bleak. As I mentioned, make sure you get data points from the peers, from the team, do skip level reviews to be able to make sure that whatever data and outcome you are proposing is fair. Objectivity is very crucial in this process. Delaying the inevitable, though, is going to be pretty harmful for yourself, the team, and the org. So this is all good. How do you get started? Assess your talent pool. Choose your candidates. I would recommend someone who is either a senior engineer or above, so that they have the right foundational aspects and the credibility within the team. Discuss and align this with the employee. Start with a small team. 3 or 4 people in a team is more than enough. That's enough complexity to let them learn, but not enough to make it unbearable. The best ingredients for success in this context are time, varied situations and projects, and engaging with different people consistently, getting them challenged over a period of time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I'll conclude the talk with an objective I personally use when building high-performing teams. The mark of a truly good engineering manager is not how many problems they solve for their teams, but how effectively they're enable the teams to solve problems on their own. By growing managers in your org, you would be taking steps to precisely do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.